I cannot contain my excitement for Legacies Season 2. Welcome to the preview show, so now we can discuss what may happen this season.
I'm Maria Menounos, and you're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
Yo, what is happening, everybody? What is happening? It is Legacies Season 2 preview show. I am Joshua Wright. This is Haley Graves. She is another one of our Vampire Diaries originals fans, and now we are moving into Legacies. Thank you so much for joining us. Aren't you excited, Haley?
I am so pumped. You guys, when he says that I'm an OG fan, I need you all to realize that I have loved this show since obviously the days of Vampire Diaries, but to the extent that I was kind of late to the curve of Vampire Diaries. Wish I would have watched it live, but I'm kind of glad that I caught on when I did, because I just got to binge watch everything. And in doing that, since then, I've binge watched the entire Vampire Diaries.
That's awesome.
3 times and the originals twice. So when I found out about Legacies, I was psyched.
That's right. You jumped on the wagon. Well, this season, as you can see, we have some changes. Alexis is not going to be with us this season, and Sam is doing other shows. So we have Haley here to fill in, and trust me, you all, she is perfect. So we are going to be discussing our likes and dislikes from last season. We're going to be discussing what we think may happen this season. And we're going to be discussing some of the character development that we hope to take place this season. Well, the first thing I want to discuss, though, I want to discuss the ending of season 1.
Yep.
So we saw the trailer for season 2, and we saw bits and pieces of the first episode, and we noticed that Josie and Lizzie are talking about the merge.
Yes.
Because Josie found out about the potential merge at the end of last season.
Yep.
What do you think is going to transpire with the merge taking place now?
This honestly gives me a lot of anxiety, mostly because I am a true Josie fan. Between the two, I'm Team Josie over Team Lizzie.
All right.
But in my gut, I just have this awful feeling, because we've seen so many time and time again Josie just being submissive to Lizzie, always putting Lizzie first. And we've just seen how powerful Lizzie is, especially when she just becomes very emotional. We see how powerful she is. And so that just makes me very, very nervous. I know that shows like this, being dramas and all, they love to throw curveballs at you. So we might get one. But I'm nervous.
You're nervous. Okay.
I'm nervous about this.
Well, I went back and forth last season. So I think overall I'm actually more of a Lizzie fan than I am Josie fan, and I'm not sure.
Conflicted this season, guys.
I don't know if that's changed from last season to this season, but one of the things I did like about Josie, we saw in the middle of the season, was that she is able to be powerful. When she had the episode where everything flipped and she was in charge, and they showed up at the dance, and she was taking over, and towards the end we noticed how she responded to Penelope. So I do feel Josie has some power to make sure that she can protect herself to Lizzie. I think Lizzie has good feelings, and I think she has good intentions. She just doesn't know how to zero in on the positive parts all the time.
No kidding.
Yeah, so I kind of feel like she's a taker, and it's draining to Josie. Yeah. But that doesn't mean that she's stronger than Josie. I actually think she's weaker.
That's fair. See, and it might be just this kind of masked thing that Josie is so content and confident in who she is that she doesn't need to kind of like lash out in the way that Lizzie does. I will say, though, the fun thing about the two of them is that Lizzie reminds me a lot of Caroline, who we saw Caroline in Vampire Diaries was very reckless in the beginning, but also in the same time, like, Josie has her characteristics too, and always being very caring of people and loving, but I just see Josie being more like Alaric and Lizzie being more like Caroline.
Okay, so more reserved. And okay, that's a fair assessment. Well, let's talk about Lizzie and Hope. So
Lizzie and Hope.
Last season we saw that Lizzie did not take kindly to Hope. She was jealous of Hope's relationship with her father. Yep. And to a point, rightfully so. They're teenagers. So Lizzie wants the attention. We understand that. What do you see happening between Lizzie and Hope this season?
So I think their relationship, we saw glimpses of where they started to understand each other more. And I think all 3 of them really did. We saw Josie and Hope start to, in a way, start forming a friendship. And I think the 3 of them are just going to kind of grow within their understanding of one another. And I cannot lie, last year when I started watching the show for the first time, I was all in on the fact of it being Hope Mikaelson. That got me so excited, so fired up. But one of the things that we haven't entirely seen that in between season 1, episodes 1 and 2 was really when Alaric continuously reminded Hope, hey, that's your father coming out.
Right.
So it's really interesting to see how Hope takes from both of her parents, of Haley and Klaus.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I want to discuss this too, as far as Lizzie and Hope.
Yep.
I did see that there was some camaraderie between them towards the end. It seemed like Lizzie became more receptive to who Hope was, because Hope had saved them in the latter episodes from a lot of situations.
Shoot, she saved them all the time.
Yeah, she did all the time. But I think towards the end is when Lizzie began to realize that how powerful Hope was and why her father was drawn to Hope.
Yeah.
But there was an interaction between Lizzie and Raphael.
Yep.
And then Hope and Raphael had some type of chemistry. So
I want Hope and Raphael.
Okay, so
we'll get there, but yeah, I want them to be a thing.
Okay, so you're team rope. I guess I'll say it that way.
That's what we're gonna do.
I don't know.
Okay, we're also in the live chat. If y'all have a better name for potential Rafi and Hope,
yes,
other than rope, give it to us.
It sounds a little strange, you know. But do you think that that's going to become a problem between Lizzie and Hope?
I think that Lizzie can just kind of be territorial of anything.
Okay.
I know we'll get to this, but I'm sure there will be other characters that come along that will pique Lizzie's love interest. As we've seen, there's been quite a few, maybe not quite a few, but there have been more than one in the first season. So I don't think she'll really trip on it. I think it's going to become more of a triangle of obviously Hope, Landon, wherever Landon is, and Rafi.
Okay, so I'm glad you mentioned Landon. but before we move any further, I want to let everybody know that here at AfterBuzz, we are very proud to have you all listening to us, watching us as much as you can. If you are on YouTube, if you are on iTunes, give us a thumbs up, give us 5-star ratings. I believe some of our shows now are streaming on Spotify, so you can go on there and listen to some of the shows. Make sure you let us know how we're doing here at AfterBuzz. We love that we are the ESPN of TV talk, and in order to continue doing that, we need you all support. So thank you so much, and keep us updated on everything you're doing as well.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, before we move on, I'm going to tell you what Nicholas Kelly says.
Yeah, go ahead.
That Lizzie is basically good intentions but poor execution, while Josie is reserved yet stoic but afraid to take risks.
Okay, that's fair.
Yeah.
So in a situation like this, I'm going to take you to a corporate level. So I work in
take us there.
Yeah, I work in an environment where you're put in charge, but you hire your weaknesses so that you can execute properly. So for me, I do fashion, or I did fashion in college, and I've done it a little bit on the professional level, but I wasn't as good at social media. So I hired people who were good at social media. I hired people who were better at marketing. Well, looking at this situation between Lizzie and Josie, wouldn't it be a good idea to me that if Hope were to take charge of Lizzie and Josie and hire them as her weaknesses, because Josie's reserved, but she's stoic and she's thoughtful.
Yeah.
Lizzie has good intentions and Hope can help with the execution. Don't you think the three of them could really do things together?
But then we have the merge. So it's just my head's spinning about what they're gonna do with those three, and especially with Lizzie and Josie.
Okay, well, that's a fair assessment. Yeah. Who do you think the merge is going to affect more if it takes place?
Oh, so I want to say that don't they not merge until a certain age?
22.
Okay, see, so they have some time.
They do.
They have some time to prepare, to come up with a strategy, and I'm sure Alaric hasn't ever told them for a reason, because he's definitely, and I almost want to say that this is where Caroline has been, that she's been trying to find answers about the Gemini Covenant to know how they can ultimately prevent this from happening. But I truly think that we're going to see them try and start coming up with a strategy to where maybe they're more even, or shoot, I don't know. I just don't want it to happen.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I feel like both of them are necessary in order to commandeer these villains that are attacking the Salvatore School. You know, it's a big deal for me. So, and then you never know, even though you may graduate, from supernatural school, you still have a connection there. You want to make sure you're protecting the people under you. Yeah. So I really don't want to see the merge.
I know. Which the only one that I think that we might get a glimpse of is Freya. Okay. So I feel like might, in all of her witch wisdom, that she's the only one that I feel like might be able to find a loophole for us.
Okay. Now, I want you to expound on Ian Somerhalder.
Yes.
You were saying before the show. So educate our fans, please.
Get excited, people, because Jenny Boyd, aka Lizzie on the show, came out and spilled the beans that this season we're getting a new Ian, which I'm super excited about because I loved me some Damon Salvatore. And so we're getting a new vampire, and he's not new, he's actually very old. And she spilled the beans, really, that he's going to be played by Thomas Doherty. Mm-hmm. He has the smolder, he has the jaw, he's very much Ian Somerhalder 2.0. She also kind of discloses that they might end up having a small love interest between the two of them, and I'm just excited that we get a vampire, an old vampire. So we obviously have MJ and Caleb, right, or MG and Caleb, mm-hmm, that there are newer vampires, but this one, he is actually going to be awoken after centuries of being asleep and has to readjust to this new world of vampirism.
I think that this is extremely important because the antithesis of MG and Caleb as vampires, they need somebody to lead them. Yeah. They need some wisdom. Caleb was temperamental, all over the place. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, mm-hmm, on this, where you're going, I picked up what you're putting down.
Uh-huh.
I'm nervous, though, because we have this old vampire who, think about centuries ago, he essentially could do whatever he wanted.
True.
Think about Ripper, Stefan, mm-hmm, and just unhinged Damon. That's where I feel like this new character is going to be coming from, which is what Caleb wants MG to be like.
Yeah, I was like, wasn't Caleb like a Ripper?
Yes.
Yeah, he was
no,
aggressive.
I think MG's the Ripper.
MG's the Ripper.
And Caleb just encourages it.
Right, that's what it is. Yeah, he's his A-man corner.
Yes.
So do you think there's going to be a dynamic where, I know there's going to be conflict, but do you think that it's going to be more positive for MG and Caleb to have a leader that way?
No, I think it's going to be bad because we saw towards the end of last season where MG is starting to give in to his Ripper side and his true vampire
Yeah, but I mean,
and I don't know. I think Caleb has himself under control a little bit better.
Okay.
But I actually maybe potentially see Caleb taking the leadership role, and Caleb's going to be the one that has to protect MG, but also get this new vampire up to speed.
Well, what I think, I want to say this too, off your point. Excuse me. What I think is Caleb supported MG.
Yep.
And it's almost like you support your homie, and then he takes it too far, and you're like, oh wait, I didn't want you to go that far. Yeah. So what you're saying as Caleb being the leader, that really is a cogent point because now he has to take over and say, hey, MG, we have to learn how to live in this environment without being seen.
Yeah.
Well, that's a good point. I like that. Well, okay, let's talk about my favorites, the werewolves. Those are my favorites. Now, I just have to be real. Vampires are cool. Nothing wrong with the vampires. I mean, I have a sleep pattern like vampires. I go to bed. I sleep 4 hours a night, 5 tops if I'm tired. If I'm sick, I sleep 6 hours. So I have the vampire sleeping habits. Yep. But the werewolf is who I am. I'm calm and chill, but if you let me cut loose, I can really do some damage. I want to talk about last season, the end. We actually saw Peyton Alex Smith, who plays Raphael. Mm-hmm. We saw him transform into the werewolf and began to, attack and protect the school.
Yep.
Where do you see the werewolves going from this point?
To me, they were kind of just their own entity in last season. I feel like we didn't get a full understanding of them. Mm-hmm. And I think and I hope that they dive into this more, especially now that Raphael is very much full werewolf, mm-hmm, and he's kind of the leader of them. And I'm excited about what they're going to do with our werewolves. I'm a fan of the werewolves. I might be more team vampire, can't lie.
Aww.
But I do love me some Raphael. He is probably one of my top favorite characters on the show. Yeah,
he was dope. I like his dynamic with Landon. You know, you mentioned Landon earlier. I want to kind of save him towards the end.
Yeah.
But I like his dynamic with Landon. They have been friends for a long time. Mm-hmm. I don't really care for the way Landon was pushed into looking for his family.
Yeah,
and but we had to see him transform into a phoenix. There was no way for him to transform unless that situation took place. So,
absolutely.
But Raphael is, because werewolves are watchdogs to me. They guard.
They
make sure
they're very protective.
Yeah, they are very protective. They make sure that no harm comes towards the people they love. And the vampires to me are there to fight the battles that the werewolves kind of missed out on, I guess you could say. They're the gatekeepers. So I think that Raphael, especially after defeating the last werewolf, I can't remember his name, the gentleman, remember they had to wrestle and he had to take over, and he ended up beating him and became the leader of the pack, the alpha. Yep. I think that Raphael is going to take that alpha status and kind of assist the vampires with the leadership. Notice how they collaborated last season, and it was really good towards the end to see the collaboration. Now let's talk about Miss Hope. Miss Hope
Mikaelson.
All right, Danielle Rose Russell, who plays Hope Mikaelson, is the bomb. I want to say that first off.
I do. She's honestly like number one for me, and then Raphael is probably number two of my favorite characters on the show, which is why I'm a big fan of. Apparently, we're calling him Rope.
I guess so, until somebody gives us something. But so Hope has. It seems like it's innate with her to be a leader. She didn't have a chance. Yeah. She was born and she's a leader. Yep. At this point, it seems like Matthew Davis's character Alaric is not going to be returning. Based off what I've been reading, what I've been seeing, we're not sure about that yet. So Hope is going to have to step up. What role is Hope going to play right now?
I really think that Hope is going to kind of do what Hope always does, save the day and keep everyone together. She really is the needle that threads them all through all of the mishaps that they get themselves involved in. And I will say, on your point about Alaric, that also goes back to my theory of Freya coming to the school. And are we potentially going to see the originals come back? Because we know that Rebecca and Cole are also still alive.
Right.
So could one of them potentially come back and start leading the school?
It would be great if Julie Plec allowed that to happen. We'll just put that out there, okay?
Just that's our nugget. That's our nugget.
Yeah.
If you feel like it.
We don't mind. It won't bother us. We won't trip. But okay, well, I do think Hope is gonna. I think Hope may be called on actually to lead in the absence of Alaric if he doesn't return. If you have someone there who's familiar with the school, the way it runs, she knows more about the school than anyone else.
For sure.
And so I think it would be appropriate for her not to lead the school because she still is a student, but to be in a leadership position, more like a counselor.
Well, but don't they have the council? Remember where each one of them from their respective areas.
Right, the four of them, right? Right.
Yeah.
But does that council work with the headmaster?
I mean, it has, but now obviously things could switch up. Where I'm nervous for Hope is that because she has always been just the natural leader of the group, there's always kind of been some resistance about her being the leader.
That's true.
So I could see, since it's the Saltzman's school, that I could see realistically Lizzie or Josie wanting to take that leadership role. And again, that just kind of clash we continuously see with Hope being the natural leader, but then really more so Lizzie being the one that's like, no, this is my dad's school. My dad built this. I should be the one in charge. I can just totally see her going on a mantra like that.
Yeah, I grew up in church. That you made me think of something. I grew up in church. And all the time, the bishop's kids weren't the best kids to take over the church.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. Like, sometimes it was someone who'd never been to the church. They've been there 10 years, and that's the person who needs to lead. I kind of see Hope in that role, where I understand that this is Lizzie's people and all this stuff, but Hope seems to have a grasp on what is important.
It needs to be Hope, but whether it will be remains to be
remains to be seen.
Yes.
Well, let's talk about some gripes from last season that we hope don't happen this season, and then we can get into Landon.
For sure.
So last season, I think I mentioned earlier that I did not like how they took so long for everyone to transition into their alters, the werewolves, the vampires. Yep. So this season, I would like to see more combat between the vampires and villains and the actual werewolves and villains. How do you feel about that?
I thought that last season, it felt a little dun 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 dun. Like every episode, it kind of felt like, which we ended up learning later on, but in the beginning, it felt like every episode they were just fighting a new evil, and fighting a new supernatural creature that was coming about, which we ended up learning why.
Right.
But I just hope that they establish who kind of the villain of this season is going to be early on.
Okay.
And I hope that they build around that to help create these character arcs even more.
Okay,
because I feel like if it's, again, just kind of like just like every week it's a new kind of villain, then it's going to be hard to keep developing these characters.
Okay, so the character development would be based off one villain that leads the entire season. However, there are intermittent villains in between that kind of may relate to. Okay, I understand that, but see, that also will allow the character development, as you previously stated, and then it would allow for them to move into. I just want to see more battles. Like, I want to see werewolves tearing people apart. Yeah. I'm not saying, we're not saying in a gruesome way, CW. That's not what we're saying. But I want to see some things, because I saw the passion in their eyes when they came about at the end of the season. And so I just think moving forward with kind of pull me in a little bit more, will help me understand more about their personalities. You know, when Raphael, remember, he got upset and his eyes would turn brown and he would have to calm down. You know, those things are important to me.
Yeah. So we also have here in the chat, again, Nicholas Kelly, thank you for watching and staying in the live chat. He said that he would rather have Dorian, who, of course, he would rather have Dorian be the headmaster while Alaric just stays at his regular teaching role because his track record with these kids in the original gang wasn't great at all, and that he put them all in danger multiple times because of his actions.
Okay.
So,
well, we like Dorian.
Good.
We like Dorian.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, he kind of fell for Emma Tig, Miss Karen David.
Yep.
We had Miss Karen David on the show last season, and she did an excellent job. So if I can get her this season, you all, I will definitely work on that. She's an awesome person to interview, wonderful personality. But we saw Dorian, you know, his emotions got next to him when it came to, you know, Dr. Emma.
When it came down to the nitty gritty.
Yeah. So,
literally.
but in the end, he still shined because he was able to put those emotions aside and protect the students.
Yeah.
So let's, before we get out of here, let's talk about Landon. Landon. So we
Such
see
a unique fella.
He is unique. We see this guy come in, Landon, and he seems to be unassuming.
Yeah.
You know, he's a handsome guy, curly hair, you know, light eyes, and some of the girls were, you know, they were kind of smitten by him, and he seemed to take directly to Hope.
Yes.
And so we
because,
see.
Yeah, because
go ahead.
he took, if you remember, he took directly to Hope because of their encounter that they had previously.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as the season progressed, we saw Landon almost be perceived as a liar.
Yep.
He took the knife and said he didn't take it, and all of a sudden they're fighting this dragon in the woods.
Yes.
And then he took the iron, and you know, I don't remember taking the iron. And we're like, what is going on with Landon? He is a liar. And then we find out that he's being compromised.
Yeah.
So now we're moving forward, and Landon has now transitioned into a Phoenix. What is Landon's role in this new season?
I mean, I'm just mind blown at what they're gonna do with Landon. My jaw was on the floor by the end of how they wrapped up Landon in season 1 because I was trying my darndest to figure out what they were gonna do with Landon. I was like,
it was a mystery.
It was just like, what is going on, and how Hope could remember things that no one else could, and it was just like, what is this? Like, is Landon pure evil? We don't know. And the way that they had him become the Phoenix was beautiful, but now I just don't know where that leaves him. Like, what are you?
Well, he is seemingly untouchable, one, and I think that his role, he may be one of those where I don't think we'll ever see how powerful he really is.
Yeah.
Unless it's
going to be necessary.
It's going to have to be very necessary, and I don't think it's going to be necessary in episode 1.
Yeah.
I'll say that. So we'll have to see the buildup of Landon. And I really want to see Landon, if he transitions into almost like a rogue from the school. So I watch a lot of these sci-fi shows and these mystical creature shows. And sometimes the person who is the most understood usually becomes a rogue, but is an advocate for the people he's protecting. But it doesn't seem that way. It's almost like an anti-hero.
In a sense, it's kind of like Klaus.
Right, or Klaus is a good example. Exactly.
Literally. You couldn't live with him, you couldn't live without him, and you hated to love him, but you loved to hate him.
Yeah, but you needed him.
Yeah.
Like, that person is necessary. So I think Landon may have that type of anti-hero role where at first glance, you're like, what are you doing? You're making us look bad. But then when you step back, you're like 3 episodes later, you're like, oh.
That's what you were doing all along.
That's what he was up to.
So,
okay, so what's our live chat saying?
So in
I
our
see you
chat,
smiling over there.
they're cute. They're giggling, making me giggle over here. So again, Nicholas Kelly just said, "Don't get me started on Landon. He deserved to become MG's lunch."
Oh Lord.
So that's a hot take there.
I agree with that though.
Mia says that Landon is just there to be Hope's boyfriend. No, Mia, we're not Team Landon and Hope over here.
Yeah,
we
no
want Raphael. But you can let us know what you think is going to happen in that triangle. And then Nicholas Kelly again is just saying he's adorable most times, but it can come off as idiotic and insensitive.
Yeah, but okay, so let me ask you this, Nicholas. What is that type of disposition he's using as a cover for who he really is?
I'm just going to be honest here.
Okay.
I'm so out on Landon. I was out on Landon from the first episode. I don't know why, to be exact. I think it was just he came into the show with almost this like victim role immediately,
right. Yeah.
and that as strong as he was, that's just kind of what upheld. And I think I was just bothered by the fact that Hope was kind of always there to try and pick him up and put him back on his feet. And I think as strong of a woman character that Hope is, that I just think she deserves to have a strong man too, not someone she has to hold his hand.
Has to hold it. Okay, not a baby.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I've been a little out on Landon, but maybe that'll change this season. I'm opening my mind to a new Landon because now he's reborn as a new Phoenix.
Yes, he is. So, all right. Well, you all, this has been a wonderful show. This has been wonderful. We are so happy and so excited about Legacies Season 2. I just want everybody to tune in. We will be starting Thursday, 10 o'clock.
Thursday, people.
10 o'clock Pacific time. We will be on AfterBuzz covering the first episode. Haley, let everybody know where they can find you.
Yeah, guys, you can follow me on Instagram at Haley Graves, HALEY GRAVESS. Yes, that's 2 S's. And on Twitter, Haley1Graves2.
All right, and I am Joshua Wright. You can find me all things social media at Cleverly Clad, although I usually only use Instagram, people. So anything you see on Twitter about me.
Instagram's where it's at.
That's right. It's not true on Twitter, okay? All right, but we're glad that you all joined us, and we will see you all Thursday, all right?
See you Thursday.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.